Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Peter Murphy begins now.
Good evening, everyone. A dispute has erupted over whether doctors told a man in Launceston to self-quarantine before he was diagnosed with coronavirus on Monday. The Health Department is adamant the man was informed of his obligations, but a person who claims to be a close friend says this was not the case.
A second side to the story has emerged over exactly what happened when a man was tested at the Launceston General Hospital for coronavirus after travelling to Iran.
What is your relation to the man who has been diagnosed with coronavirus?
Yeah, he's my friend, and I basically called me to pick him up from the airports.
Wanting to stay anonymous, the friend says he was there when the coronavirus test took place around midday on Sunday. He claims there was no verbal or written instruction to self-quarantine until the following day when he returned a positive test result.
No mention, zero mention, self-quarantine or anything like this. So he was like, you're free to go and you don't need to worry about anything.
Between the test taking place and the positive result being returned, the man had shopped at Woolworths on Wellington Street. The friend contacted 7 Tasmania News, claiming his friend had initially returned a negative test result and had since been vilified for going to the shops thinking he was okay.
He is a really responsible man.
The Health Department vehemently denies the allegations, saying the man was told to self-quarantine.
I'm confident that the public health processes were followed appropriately within our organisation, and it's disappointing that the man didn't follow them precisely. We are reviewing the processes all the same.
The Australian Medical Association says it's unlikely the virus will spread to other shoppers, but those in the store between 10 and 10:15 on Sunday night who feel unwell should contact the public health hotline.
I think what's really important here is that we don't panic. People will think that he's left a trail in Woolworths at night and things. This is just not the case. What we need to do is to manage this in a very calm and sensible way.
While Woolworths says it is contacting team members who work during that time and will provide appropriate support and guidance to its stores, adding it has a detailed cleaning program and is taking appropriate action. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
The inquest into the death of 57-year-old Warrane man Paul Thompson has heard about his housemate's violent past and whether a punch to his head could have led to his death. Paul Thompson died from bleeding on the brain in January 2018, but the cause is yet to be determined.
This was the devastated family of Paul Thompson, leaving his coronial inquest last year, today appearing via video link. The inquest before coroner Olivia McTaggart continuing, trying to figure out what caused Mr Thompson's death in 2018. The 57-year-old was found dead in his Warrane unit on the morning of January 21st, 2018. Mr Thompson suffered from epileptic fits and had a prior brain injury. Mr Thompson died from bleeding on the brain, but the cause of the injury is yet to be determined. His housemate and friend Lawrence Keane was charged with manslaughter over the death. He pleaded not guilty, and the charges were ultimately dropped. The inquest today heard final submissions, counsel assisting saying the evidence was clear that Mr Keane had a history of family violence and assault activities. But what he'd done in the past shouldn't lead to conclusions about what happened on the night of the death. The deceased's family suggested calling another witness, an ex-partner of Mr Keane, to further back up evidence of his past. The coroner saying this was not necessary, as Mr Keane had himself admitted his actions and Mr Thompson's vulnerabilities. A single punch could kill Paul. Ultimately saying that the causation issues relating to Mr Thompson's death and how they may be related to Mr Keane's actions are complex.
The coroner will now look into the 4 potential causes of Mr Thompson's death, as raised by the forensic pathologist, determining whether it was caused by Mr Keane or external factors.
The inquest has been adjourned for findings. Ebony Ablett, 7 Tasmania News.
Lawyers for TTline have argued the company should not be held criminally responsible for the deaths of 16 polo ponies 2 years ago. Facing court in Burnie, the company claims the charges only apply to land-based transport vehicles, not maritime vessels.
When 16 prized polo ponies left Devonport on the Spirit of Tasmania in January 2018, all were seemingly in top condition. The next time they were checked, all were stone cold dead. Despite transporting the animals across Bass Strait, TTline argues a regulatory loophole clears it of culpability. These regulations do not apply to the Spirit because it's a seagoing vessel, not a vehicle. In preliminary submissions in Burnie today, the company said the laws are only applicable to land-based livestock transport. The horses were held on a ship in a truck driven by former national polo captain Andrew Williams, along with colleague Thomas Martin. Lawyers for the transport company shifting the blame, declaring they were in control of Mr. Williams, not TTline. The two men and TTline have been charged separately with a raft of offences relating to the death of the ponies. All have pleaded not guilty. However, the prosecution refuted the notion the regulations don't apply on the sea. Completely wrong. Clearly, TTline was a person with welfare over these animals. It's expected the magistrate will make a decision on the submissions by the end of this month. Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
Police have laid charges following a violent after-school brawl between two girls. A 45-year-old woman and a youth have been charged with common assault in relation to the incident at a New Norfolk school last Friday, which was captured on camera. Both have been bailed and will appear in court at a later date. A 54-year-old man from overseas has died in a two-vehicle crash overnight. Police say the man was driving an SUV at around 8:30 last evening when he collided with a truck on the Bass Highway near Black River in the state's far northwest. The truck driver wasn't injured. Investigations into the cause of the crash are continuing. Spirit of Tasmania passengers could be forced to disembark in Geelong as a battle with Victorian ports over rising costs heats up. The Premier said he's still considering alternative plans, fearing the proposed price hikes could see the cost for travelling vehicles increase dramatically.
It's a vital link to the mainland, but the Spirit of Tasmania's iconic journey into the heart of Melbourne could be in for a shake-up. A battle between Tasmania and Victoria over the rising cost of berthing could see the ships docking in other ports, including Geelong.
Either it's a better deal at Station Pier, and it has been very frustrating in terms of the negotiations that TTline have been engaged in, or we will need another port.
This will have significant impacts on a range of industries. Tourism's one, but also our freight industries, particularly those with sensitive freight.
The Premier saying the proposed price hike he's fighting would see costs for vehicles increase by 30%.
The price and conditions were quite outrageous that were being asked of TTline.
Also out, spruiking new major projects laws designed to make it easier for large-scale builds to navigate complex regulations.
One of the things that's really important is that you don't get through sort of 1 or 2 stages of land use planning and then find later on that there is another approval which is going to kill the project.
It sidelines communities, it removes the role of local councils, and it provides no right to appeal. It is fundamentally unjust.
Meanwhile, Labor and the Greens outlined their plans for the year, the Greens focusing on climate and Labor housing.
Labor's Housing Works policy will help build 490 houses in the first 3 years of a Labor government. This will create 550 jobs and inject $300 million into the Tasmanian economy.
We're laying out a vision for Tasmania's future that responds to the climate emergency that we're in. We need a Green New Deal for Tasmania so that our economy works for people.
More will be revealed when Parliament resumes tomorrow. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
Welcome back. A touring festival of cabaret, comedy, music and dance is set to take over Hobart this month, with Spiegel tent events starting from tomorrow. Headlined by circus cabaret act Blanc de Blanc, artists are promising eye-catching performances set to enthrall and delight.
Performing an internationally acclaimed circus cabaret act has more twists and turns than you could imagine. These performers warming up ahead of their opening performance tomorrow night.
It involves comedy, circus, burlesque. It's a variety show, and it started as a sophisticated glass of champagne and turned into a fun party.
Blanc de Blanc is the headline act for this year's Spiegel Tent Hobart, a touring festival offering unique shows in the intimate venue.
This is our 7th time here in Hobart. We've brought the beautiful Aurora Spiegel tent over from Holland again. It's very exciting.
The circus-themed act is just one of more than 20 different performances on offer during this year's program.
We've also got performers from across Australia and internationally coming to do one-night-only shows. So we've got stand-up comedians, we've got bands, we've got cabaret shows, and it's a really, really diverse and eclectic offering.
Performers urging the public to come along, but warning audiences to be prepared to expect the unexpected.
Most of the time people don't expect what's happening. There's a lot of spinning, there's a lot of water splashing. So if you're in first row, come prepared because you get drenched.
Tickets are available via the Spiegel Tent website or at the box office on site. Ebony Ablett, 7 Tasmania News.
A painting expressing the force and fury of Tasmania's recent bushfires has won the first accolade of this year's Glover Art Prize. The piece, Tasmanian Fires 2019, has claimed the Hanger's Choice Award, with artist Veronica O'Leary aiming to create a sense of helplessness in the viewer. It features a hot palette of colours to convey fear and vulnerability.
The Hangers made mention of the colours popping out of this piece. They particularly liked the motion and movement within the piece. I guess the meaning behind the artwork stood out to many of the Hangers as well.
The exhibition opens to the public from Saturday with 42 finalists vying for a $50,000 cash prize.
Lindisfarne has been skittled for just 83 runs in its final match of the National T20 Club Championships against ladder leader Sydney. With the ball, Keegan Oates cleaned up the Sydney top order with 4 wickets, helping restrict the total to 154 runs. In reply, Lindisfarne struggled to find the boundary, and despite a cameo from Sam Underhill, the side was eventually bowled out 71 runs short of the target. The team will now head home to continue its Cricket Tasmania Premier League campaign. To soccer, and an NPL Northern Derby will headline the first round of this year's Lacko Seljack Cup following today's draw. 2019 winner South Hobart will start its defence playing away to Northern Championship side Launceston United. The marquee match of the round will see Devonport Strikers play fierce rival Launceston City.
That's a Northern match where 2 traditional clubs coming together and playing in cup games.
The ties will be played on the 10th and 11th of April. The winner of the Lacko Seljack Cup will receive a spot in this year's FFA Cup.
Good evening everyone. Launceston 22 degrees today, 21 in Hobart and Devonport, and Burnie reaching 20. Ouse the state's top with 24, 22 in Grove, Strahan and Flinders Island, Smithton 21 degrees, King Island 20 and 19 in Lowhead, St Helens and Friendly Beaches. Across the state today, low-level cloud lies across the north, east coast and southwest, while the rest of the state was mainly cloud-free. Across Australia, mid to high-level cloud extends over much of the central and eastern parts of the mainland, while a cloud band crossed the southwest of Western Australia. Tomorrow's chart shows a developing low-pressure system move across eastern Tasmania. A high-pressure system in the Bight extends a ridge over South Australia. Northeast to southeasterly winds tomorrow, 10 to 20 knots, reaching 20 to 30 knots about the east. And there is a strong wind warning current from the northern tip of Flinders Island to southeast Cape, and a severe weather warning for eastern Tasmania, warning of heavy rainfall and possible flash flooding. Therefore, a flood watch is current for the northeast and east coast catchments, and a road weather alert is current for eastern Tasmania, warning of reduced visibility and heavy rain. A warning is also current to sheep graziers for eastern forecast districts. Tomorrow, Hobart 19, 18 in Cygnet and New Norfolk 20, rain clearing and 21 in Launceston, 22 in Devonport and Campbelltown 19, Burnie 21, 22 in Strahan and Smithton 23, and in the east, rain and 20 in St Helens and 19 in Swansea and Fingal. The UV for tomorrow is very high across the state. Looking on to Friday now, showers in the west developing in the northeast during the afternoon, showers in the north and south on Saturday, and on Sunday, fine apart from possible showers in the northwest. 31 in Perth tomorrow, Adelaide 25, rain in Canberra and Sydney, and 30 in Brisbane. And it's currently cloudy across the state, Hobart 21, 19 in Launceston and Devonport 18 degrees. And Murph, that's the weather.
Thanks for joining us this evening. Good night.